watching from the outside in of partnerships that have gone bad are usually people that are jumping into partnerships that have no idea really who they're dealing with, right? They didn't test it out. They didn't do a deal with them, and they jump in, and it doesn't go well. I think
they don't know how they handle adversity. That's a big one.
That's a huge one. I would say that is the number one thing, is when something's not going right, do they flee? Do they run? Do they blame each other? Right. Things like that. So, I mean, even for us, we've known each other since we were 14 years old or whatever it is. Went to college together, we were friends, and we knew each other a long time before that. When we first, I remember we're sitting at Wharf Hill early on. You might not even remember this. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this when we were both trying to figure out how we were buying houses.
Okay.
And I think I was looking for a crutch because I wasn't finding any deals. You were finding a couple. I'm like, man, why don't we just work together? And you said, we both don't know what we're doing right now. We're both trying to figure it out. Why would we partner? Right. That was the answer. I was like, well, that does kind of make sense. We're both trying to do the same thing.
Sounds like something I'd say, but I don't
there. But that was early on. It wasn't until probably a year later where we were comparing notes and figuring out what we were good at, where we decided to partner on a few deals, right?
Welcome to Burning the Ships podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I've got my partner in crime, Mr. Bill Phillips. So,
it's been a while.
So y'all...
I've been busy.
Anybody who's followed along for any amount of time knows, like early on, we would do the weekly rambles and stuff. He'd pop in, but, and this is a good thing, but you haven't seen much of Bill lately because he's been head down, focused on processing loans and stuff like that in our business, because we've had a lot of chaos in all the good ways, but it's just kept him bogged down a good bit. So I thought it'd be a fun idea to get him back in here, talk about kind of a year in review. We're recording this early December of 2025, and we've had a very exciting year with a lot of growth, a lot of scale, all that good stuff. And we're going to talk through all that, kind of what our plans are, reflect on all that, and then what our plans are moving forward. And we'll talk about kind of just kind of reviewing how things have gone since we left our jobs. We're about 3 years into that now. So
you're right there. I've got 3 months before I hit that 3-year mark.
Yep. So before we get into that, we will turn it over to my man JJ for JJ's joke of the week. Take it away, buddy.
Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in the field.
All right.
Good stuff, JJ.
He's amazing at that. I say this a lot. You probably hadn't heard it, but every week, he could not care less about this podcast. He just wants to hear himself tell the joke every episode.
Oh, so you haven't put on the episode?
I put it on. Okay. And then he goes back to whatever he's doing. So, but yeah. So Bill, it is December 2025. We are, I think, 2.5 years. Well, yeah, I mean, we took our first investment into 608B Capital Funding July of 23, right?
Yep.
So, and we kind of launched everything several months before that, but that was when we officially said, let's go. And so, not quite, almost 2.5 years into it, and it has been quite a ride so far.
Yeah, it's been everything other people that have built businesses kind of told us it would be, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, so 2.5 years, you got just different levels of it, right? First level being just got to get going, get some money in, get a loan, get one investor, one loan, and then build from there.
Yep.
And yeah, over 2 years, there was months of no growth, a little bit of growth, kind of a pop of an investment here and there, finding a new borrower here and there, till this last year where it's really started to, I guess, gain traction and what we were expecting out of it.
Yeah. What would, when you say it's what folks, because you're right, and I know what you mean, but I'm going to have you elaborate a little bit. When folks kind of warned us, this is the most natural progression of a startup business. Like, what things came true that you're referring to?
I guess probably the hockey stick growth is part of it, right?
Yeah.
Where you just keep planting seeds, and then in years 3 or 4, things start to take off.
Yep.
Right. And this was in year 3. There was a lot of growth for us so far this year. But I think more so is where a lot of people quit in that first 12 to 18 months because they're not getting the traction they thought they would get. And, we definitely went through that at month 6, month 12, day 18. Why are we not, we always wanted more faster.
Right.
And it's more of having, keep going, do the daily tasks. And as long as you're doing that, the fruit will come, right?
Yep.
It will be fruitful.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's gone for us. And then you get to a point where things are taking off and it still feels like, what's next? What do we do next? How do we pivot? That type thing. But
yeah, it's, I know I certainly, you have quite a bit more patience, like going through things and just trusting the process than maybe I did early on. Now I fully trust it because we're starting to see it play out. But I had plenty of those days where it's like, man, what are we doing? Like this just, it didn't, and I know that was a wrong way to think, but I think the good that came out of it just made me push a little bit harder sometimes,
Yeah. And workload can be deceiving.
Yeah.
Because like for us, we're in a business where we close loans, right? We fund fix and flip real estate deals. So us being busy is processing loans, underwriting loans, closing loans. And early on, if you've got 1 or 2 a month, the actual business and operations side is really, really slow.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, when you're not doing those things, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, right? It's deceiving. When you are actually doing the right things, if you've got, even if it's only early on, less hours because you're doing everything you can to raise money, find borrowers and things like that, it just doesn't feel like enough. And it's hard to get through that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and I would like, if you look at, like, just if we laid out a graph of our revenue, from the beginning, you would see a true hockey stick,
Yeah.
and it, really, I mean, we were reviewing some, we were kind of doing some end of the year planning last week and projections for next year. And I mean, really our last 6 months has been where the bulk of our revenue has come because, and it just has taken off. And God, the last 3 or 4 months have been just consistently, better and better. And for me, it's validating in the sense because like a couple things had to fall into place. Number one, we had to get capital to lend out. So that was kind of dragging, and I carried that weight personally because like that was when we set out to do this. All right, you're raising capital, right? And it was going slow, and I just had to I had the realization that I had to go through a different process than what I was used to in my former career. And it just took some stubbornness to realize like, I'm not going to sit down with these people and they're going to give me $100,000 after that conversation, which I was used to that kind of, I guess, instant gratification. So I had to work through all that. But as the money finally starts coming in and it starts compounding and coming in, well, as you mentioned earlier, where there might be a month where we do 3 or 4 loans, we went from that to doing 15 loans in a month, and having weeks where, I mean, hell, we're sitting here in a week where you don't have time to be sitting here with me because you have a lot of loans this week to process.
3 loans closing tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And that happened very quickly. We went, and part of that, and this is kind of where I want to hear it from your perspective, but we did the right things. The capital started ramping up. We had an intern come work for us, which was Ted, who a lot of people know, but he was transitioning from military to his next career. They have a career switcher type program. So he worked for us, 3 months?
No, he ended up, as part of that program. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As part of that program.
Right. And it was a good fit. Ended up hiring him full time, and it just lined up. Like, it could not have lined up better with our growth that was happening at that time. You trained him up, he's rolling, and I mean, to his credit, he could not turn down what the they gave him an offer to come back as a contractor, and he had to walk
No
away.
way.
So we did all that scale, had the staff. We're building out our staff and everything like that, getting it rolling. You're able to oversee that. It wasn't that busy for either one of us other than just doing our daily stuff. And then boom, he leaves. And then since then, it has been a wave of business that has just come to us.
Our biggest 3 months.
Right, falling in your lap.
Yeah.
So how has that been? Because I see it every day as your business partner. We're communicating through it, but I stay out of your way. I know I muddy the waters when I touch loans and stuff like that. So how's it been for you?
I mean, it's been what I knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's busy, but it's a lot worse if we weren't busy, right? We brought in capital. If we weren't closing loans, then, that would be the problem. And it just comes back to time management. I think the only part that's been hard about it is not being able to come up for air to get out there and do more marketing to the borrower side. Right. So then you've got, 3 of us in the business, and I'm sitting there and I'm in the weeds of the business and working in the business as opposed to on the business. Yeah. Right. So that I can't wait, with branding coming in and getting going and getting a new system that we're working on that's going to be huge for us. But I told you, the one thing that I've learned over the last 3 months is how inefficient I am. Right. And trying to work through that and build systems, like that's what the next year and being staffed up for it is going to be for us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it hasn't been fun, but it's been doable. And we have a business we don't work on weekends. Every once in a while I might pick up my computer on Saturday to catch up on something, but it's been manageable. But we are at that point to where it's right on the line of being manageable.
Yeah.
So that comes in with Brandon coming in, taking off, a lot of stuff on my plate, over the next few months. And then we can really, both of us, focus on running the business and owning the business like we've talked about from the get-go.
Right.
But it's been not fun, but it hasn't been that bad.
Yeah.
You trudge through it, you figure it out, you time block. And I've just, gone to the driving range not as many times at lunchtime as I want to, and sit in my recliner with a computer in my lap. That's been my day. But
funny because you, a couple days, last couple months have just been pretty much every day. It's just loans or stuff you've had to deal with. And part of me, I do feel bad because I'm not helping from that aspect, but part of me also understands that's I would mess that is not the detail oriented stuff is not my forte, and I would probably cause more headache for you being a part of it, but at the same time, where I'm going with this is because you get so zoned in and working and completing your task and everything you got to do, you lose track of time. So you'll literally, he joked there that he's sitting in his recliner, you'll sit down, you won't come up for air for 8 hours.
Yeah, and get after it.
Right. And he's texted me a couple days at the end of the day, his step counters, and it's 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, you've taken 800 steps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man,
that's not good.
Got to figure out.
It's not good.
And I was happy the other day when I came in here. Here is our office and stuff, but you and Brandon had been working all morning, and then y'all stopped and went for a 4-mile walk. And I was like, well, that is,
Well, this is what's kind of dumb about all of that is I sat there in my recliner a couple days, and probably there's days where it's raining outside. I didn't want to go outside or something like that.
Whatever you got to say,
all of my stuff to the coffee pot into the bathroom. But I sat here one day, I think it was the first day Brandon comes on, and we sit there and we're working all day long. And then I realized not only have I not gotten any steps for the day or not moved at all, I'm holding him there with me. So I'm like, he looks at his watch, he goes home that night and goes outside in the dark and walks 3 miles or something like that because he hadn't moved all day.
That was his first day.
Yeah, that was his first day. I was like, and I told him, I said, all right, next day, bring your shoes. We're going for a walk. And we went for, a 4-mile walk the next day at lunchtime to go just get our bodies moving a little bit.
Yeah, I called him that night just because I didn't see him at all that first day. I had some meetings and stuff. So I called him. I was like, how's everything going? Blah, blah, blah. So it's great. We got to change something up
Yeah.
about this walking issue. He said, he was kind of breathing heavy. I said, what are you doing? It was like 6:30 at night. He said, I'm out walking, man. I only had like 800 steps, going when I got home. So,
But no, the same thing. I went home and walked.
yeah. But I think, obviously bringing, and I plan to have Brandon on here too, to kind of talk through his story and stuff like that. But the timing to that, and when we won't go into it now, but like when we peel the layers of that story and the irony, the coincidence, everything that kind of fell in place, where we needed somebody and we needed a strong operator to operate the day-to-day business. And then it just, like, Brandon, it had never crossed my mind about him working for us. In fact, and I'll let him tell the story, but he reached out to me to talk about something completely outside of our business. And it didn't even cross my mind that night. And then it was like a day later, I'm like, wait a minute, we have a spot. We just got to figure out if it works. And then it evolved to this. So I could not be more excited about that for a couple reasons. One, like, we need it. We need that. You're a fantastic operator, but in your words, it might not be the most efficient, especially as we scale. So things kind of get just all over the place. Brandon has great operational skills. He's proven that where he's coming from, but he's super, almost to an OCD standpoint of things being organized and systems and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're in a new room right now because this was where all my files were a week ago, and now we have a nice little podcast studio.
I feel
you
bad.
have to clean it.
I haven't told him this as of I walked in this morning. I knew he was here late the other day, like cleaning some stuff up. And I had told him, I said, make that back office whatever you want. It's yours. He's got an office at his house too. But I came in this morning, I walk in, I'm like, man, this is going to be my new office.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Brandon, but I'm taking over all the work you did. So, we mentioned earlier, let's do this, because we're sitting here talking about like this year and how it's scaled and stuff like that. A lot of people listen to this have no idea what our business is.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to elevator pitch it real quick, what we do, so people can kind of tie that into what we're talking about and what we'll continue talking about?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I had somebody ask me the other day that I used to work with, I saw him at a restaurant at lunch. He goes, what are you guys doing? You still out buying real estate and stuff like that? I said, a little bit. And I was 100% sure he knew what I did as a business.
Right.
Like I had talked about him before. I talked to him about it before. But I mean, our business is as simple as it gets, right? We raise money from investors. And so like a bank, and in the real estate world, you call us being the bank, pretty much, right? In the flipping world. And we take that money and we lend it out to people who are fixing and flipping houses. It's that simple, right? Saying we make a return on that above the investor money. So there's two facets of our business. Investors coming in, they trust us to put their money out and be good stewards of their money, put it into good deals with good operators, and then ultimately we make a spread, and that's how we profit.
It's perfect.
So we've got two things, right? Without funds, without investor money, there's no business. Without borrowers, there's no business. So we have two customers, and with the investors first, money in, and then money out to go out to our investors or to our borrowers.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, it's funny. We're in it every day, so we understand it. But like, I went to a networking event last week. Well, it was similar to BNI, for folks that are familiar with like those referral type networking groups. This is one locally. Went to it, and they asked me to kind of give a pitch of what we do, a high level, and I did that. And everybody in there, I mean, it was a bunch of professionals that are adjacent to real estate, but nobody. There was a couple real estate agents in there, but even them, I had a line of people after the meeting wanting to know, like, what do you do? Like, what is it again? And it is, you said it, it is a very simple business. It's just foreign to most people. Like, it's not something that, hell, even 5 years ago, we only knew of this type of business existing because we used that, or I did for a couple flips, that type of money to do a couple flips, but never once was it like, oh, we could be in that position. And it's until we realized and started working with Kelly and Kelly Garrett, until we realized how simple it is to run. It's not simple, but the logic is pretty simple how it all works mechanically.
Yeah, I mean, on the back end of it is a lot of work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of protection, talking to attorneys and things like that to make sure we're all buttoned up and we're keeping that money safe in those deals. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We lend money out. We have the house that the flipper is flipping as collateral.
Yep.
And that's how we protect our investors' money.
Yep. So now, you and I, for those, I mean, Burning the Ships is the name of the podcast. That's a play on both of us leaving our careers. For me, 3 years ago exactly, I left at the end of December 2022, and you were a few months behind that. And that, that came with a lot of mindset shift for us, a lot of commitment, a lot of belief in, what we were going to do. What we left to do ended up not being the thing we, went all in. We had to pivot for a lot of reasons, mainly due to just changes in the economy and the real estate market, stuff like that. So I'll set this question up with, I mean, when we both left, we did so knowing we kind of had a runway. A runway meaning, for simple terms, we had a nest egg of financially that we could afford to roll the dice a little bit and make it probably without going completely homeless, 5 or 6 years without having to, go and restart a new career or something like that. I think for me, it was more of a 2 to 3 year commitment that if we don't get something up and going that at least gets close to my former income, in 2 to 3 years, I'd probably start considering going back to work. You probably had a similar thought, but that was kind of like way off to the side. We were not thinking in any way we were going to go back to work. So that's what we left to do. We had the runway. We had a plan. How has that plan played out in your perspective?
I think I don't know. I think you look back, we were so hungry. I know I was, just to get out there and do something on my own, right? Or our own. And that hunger or that want may have overshadowed the actual logic of doing it, right?
Right.
I mean, we always talk about it. Somebody asks us, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to go do this. And what advice would we give them? And it would definitely depend on their situation. But the one thing we did have was long careers where we had saved a good amount of money, right? And it wasn't that we were jumping because we had this great business idea and this is what it was going to be. It was more so we just had a belief that we were going to figure it out, right? Which, looking back, that might be kind of naive because what we have learned over the last 2 years is it's really hard to figure out. But we did it in a way that, where our fallback plan would be going back to work, but we had enough, leeway out there from just what we had saved that we had time to figure it out. And where I think where that can get a little bit troublesome too is once you're using that money and you're pulling from the funds that you've saved up, you can fall into a little bit of a comfort zone and not do very much. Like I made sure through that time period that I never got to a point where I just felt comfortable to where if I don't do anything today, it's going to be okay because I got this money to get me so far. Right. That never crossed my mind.
Yeah, for sure. Never crossed mine.
Right. It was from day one, there was a nervousness, a little bit of anxiety around, I don't want to go, but so far backwards. Right. We might have said we had 4, 5, 6 years of runway, but truly, like if we didn't have traction within a year and a half, or in the beginning, it felt like in month 1, we got to get traction right now that, we're falling behind. We're not where we should be. So that was a little bit of just an extra push throughout it. But that's also, I think, where a lot of people stop as they get in and say, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. I'm just going to go ahead and go back to work. Or I'll just live for the next 6 months off my investments and I'll go back to work or whatever. Like I never let that thought cross my mind.
Yeah.
Ever. There was definitely times in there I'm like, all right, I got a lot more scrutinizing of, the money I did have. Where was it invested? Who was it invested with? And things like that to try to make as big a return as I could so that drag on my savings was slower. I spent a lot of time there. It wasn't necessarily on the business, but anyway, for us, that was it, right? So I always tell people, and I've had a few people ask me, how did you do it? And I said, you got to have one or two things. You either have to have enough savings and an idea on what you're going to go do, or if you don't have the savings, you got to have something that's already up and running, right? That's already producing income. Because the last thing you want to do is quit your job, and then in a month you're wondering where all your money's at,
Right.
and you can't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you and I both had other pressures there in the sense that we're married, we have young kids, right? These people are depending on us and putting full faith that we're going to figure this thing out. And that's, I mean, I know, like, I never felt any pressure from my family, but I was creating it in my head. Like, I can't I left my former career to do what I'm doing now for them. That was it. Like, and you did, to even more so in your case, because you were leaving early every morning before they were awake and getting home at dinner time, and that whole gap, like there was no flexibility so we did all that. Now, over the last 3 years, we've been exposing them to what we left for, so exposing ourselves to it. So you're creating a new comfort level of dad's always here, dad's always available, dad's always around. And that pressure of knowing, like, for me, if I don't succeed at this, if you and I don't succeed at this and I have to go back to a career, like working for somebody else, I'm giving them a taste of something that is really good, and now I got to take it away. And I haven't talked about that much, but that pressure just plays in my head constantly. Like, we've got to make this work, because yes, it's hard to run a business and all that stuff. But dude, for 3 years, you and I have not had anybody ask us what we're doing, why we're doing it, show us this report by Friday. And that has been special, And so not wanting to relinquish that has put a lot of pressure. And Katie, and I know Elena hasn't either, they haven't one time come to us and said, hey, what's going on? Are we going to get this thing going? But they're just trusting us, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is.
So
it is.
And speaks to that a little bit. I just kind of rambled a little bit, but I mean.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, even like, there's months in there where things aren't going as quickly as you want them to, or we go a month and we don't raise any money, or we go a month and we don't have a loan or something like that. And knowing that we're still buying and spending what we normally do.
Yep.
So with things going backwards, like I've never been comfortable with anything going backwards, right? I just want always, at least from a financial standpoint, there to be growth.
Right.
And especially early on, you come in and you get happy kids running around, and you're sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I hope I don't screw this up.
Yeah.
Right. I can't screw this up.
Right.
And I don't want them to feel it. If we do, but at the same time, it's a fine line. It's a fine line I struggle with, of being, on the side of, you can have anxiety around that. It can drive you crazy. But all that's going to do is keep you from enjoying that moment with them where, you're there.
Yeah.
Or I'm there. I'm there with them. But it's cool to see, like Ella all the time. Dad, how many YouTube followers do y'all have? Right? Stuff like, or hearing them talk about, they don't have a clue what we do, but you hear our kids talk about 608B Capital. Like there's something that we've created
that they're proud of.
That they're proud of.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's even more so, like if things aren't going well and they're proud of this, you as a dad, you're like, man, they're proud of this. I want it to be something that they're proud of.
Yeah.
But yeah, just listen to them. And for me, being home, which it creates, a little bit more, a different issue than I thought it would leaving my job. But, when I'm gone and I'm at work, they're just expecting I'm going to be gone at work. But when I'm home, so like the last 3 months where we've been so busy, where I'm at home, and I'm working, they see me working all the time. They get the sense that I'm working all the time, which is good and bad because I'm home with them,
Right.
and I'm not stopping to go outside and play with them or something like that because I'm busy. And then that, creates, you really think about what you're creating for what they see, right? And I don't want them to grow up. I do want them to grow up thinking they work hard and things will come their way, that they can own their own business and things like that. But I don't want to give them to the example of, I remember Dad just sitting there grinding all day long, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where time blocking and all that, comes into play. I, a little bit different for me because Katie and the kids leave every morning and go to school during the week. So for me, it's easy to grind during that time, and they have all they know is Dad's working today. Right. And then, but, so what I've had to do, and this has always been true with me, but I have my most energy for work around dinner time, like late in the afternoon. Yeah, I'm ready to rock. Like, and that's, I mean, I've had to suppress that a little bit because that's when you'll notice over the years you get the most correspondence from me. Like I'm firing off ideas and texts and stuff later in the afternoon. That's when my mind is or like end of the week. I'm just the end of whatever. That's when I get going. And I think that's a lot to do with, I don't know, like the end of the day pressure motivates me a little bit just to get things accomplished. So I have a lot of energy at the end of the day. Well, that's the time period I'm with my kids a lot too. So I've still, so what I try to do now is just be a lot more laser focused during those times, maybe where I don't have the most energy to focus. So at 3-4 o'clock, I can check out and go do, it's hunting season right now. So we hunt a lot of days. And outside of that, there's just always stuff where now I am pretty good at task switching, meaning like if it's 5 o'clock and I'm playing with the kids and somebody calls and they need to talk to me about, or an investor or something like that, I can go to that, go back to the kids and not really compromise much, but I don't like to do that, so anyway. So what, as far as like I feel, and we've talked about it, like we have finally reached that point, both from, well, mostly from like a financial standpoint where we are, I'd say back even to where we are. Probably once you factor in all the variables, we're maybe a little bit ahead of where we were before we left our jobs. So when you think through that, like I look at the income that's coming in from the business, now I can get back to my normal budgeting and stuff like that. But it feels, when I say normal, knowing that paycheck's coming in every week. Now we're having to go get it every month now, but knowing that paycheck's coming in and the financial stress is a lot less now than when we were going backwards for a couple years, meaning digging out of that savings and stuff like that. So that said, I'm going to refrain from sharing my perspective. You and I have not talked about this much, but now that we've gotten to that point, it could stay just like this for forevermore, and we're probably going to be okay. Where does your mind go? Is it more content, and then anything on top of this becomes just icing on the cake, or are you still wired to go and figure out how to continue growing?
Oh man, both.
Mm-hmm.
I think and we've said this from the get-go, and we're at this point now. Like one thing we did in our previous careers that we liked, that a lot of people don't like, is managing teams, managing people, and things like that. And starting any business is full on. You're starting from zero, right? So if you're the owner of the business, we didn't start the business with a team of employees that's going to run this business. We had to grow it first to a point where we could go out and hire employees. So I think now we're at a huge pivotal point in our business, right? With the capital that we have, and assuming that we're going to get the loan demand, which I know we're going to get the loan demand because that's going to be our focus for next year. Like we're at a point of we're not in huge growth mode right now, right? And I think there's, you know, good and bad around growth, but at certain points you got to stop, you got to collect yourself, and then go to that next step of growth. So right now we're at a stop and collect ourselves points, right? So we've raised enough money this year to come to a stopping point. And for, I don't know how often you share on the podcast about where we're at, but you know, in our fund right now, we're sitting at about $20 million in capital. And at that number, like, we're going to sit there for a little bit and we're going to just go out and we're going to build our borrower base bigger. We always want our loans to outpace our money, right?
Meaning the loan demand. So we have more loans to fund than we have capital to fund it. That's the sweet spot.
That's right. And that's the sweet spot for us.
Yeah.
So now we're at that point for ourselves, you know, and financially and what the business is putting off, that we're in a good spot. Now the next best step for us is to go take that business and make it as efficient as possible.
Yep.
Right. So we are, you know, you get too far ahead and raising too much money and you're always chasing. You don't want to be that. There's always that in growth mode, right? You kind of got to be there a little bit, but now we're at a point of stop. Let's just go build our borrower base. Let's get our employees intact and get all of our efficiencies, because, you know, we can make more money by being more efficient with the money we have right now.
Correct.
As opposed to raising $5 or $10 million more dollars and doing it the way we're doing now. So that doesn't answer your question at all, but that's just kind of where we are right now. But I think long term, honestly, I want to, you know, this year is going to be a good outlook for that, right? And kind of what I've thought about it is the next steps of growth. I don't want it to be like that first big step of growth, right? Is that we're methodically going into it for a couple of reasons. One, the stress of just growing or doubling your business in 1 or 2 years is not necessarily what I want to deal with right now, because I've got small kids. I want to spend as much time as I can with them. And if we decide today that we want to go double our business in the next year or 2 years, I know 100% that's going to take focus to that. That's going to be the focus. And at a point where I am in my life right now, we've spent 2 years getting it to where it's at. Now let's step back. It's going to produce what we think it's going to produce, and set, you know, systems and people around that to make it as efficient as possible. Now, as we get beyond that and we get a good team in place, and we've got, you know, we've done as good with setting up our underwriting and getting to know our borrowers and building that business. Once we get into where we feel is a really good spot, then we take that next step. But I can't really say right now what that end goal is.
Yeah.
Right. I just don't. It's hard for me to imagine $1 million or $100 million fund or whatever it could be. Yeah, we could get there, but I don't want to do it in a way that's going to distract me from, like, the most important things in life and my family and spending time with them. I mean, that's the best way I can say it. Like, if we could build a team that can manage $100 million fund in 5 or 10 years, and we have that thing that's running, I guess that's my answer. I want to build a team that can grow, and then we can scale as big as we want to go, as long as we have a team that's doing it and it's not all on us.
Right. Yeah.
That's my answer.
And I think, you know, it's from a timing standpoint, had we been building this even 5 years ago, but 10 years ago, a lot of the efficiencies that we can now put in place they didn't even exist. AI wasn't even being talked about 5 years ago. Like, it was being talked about, but nobody had any idea of how much it would be integrated into businesses like ours. So, like, part of scaling now is, you know, that's a priority for us, is how to leverage the technologies out there. We're bringing on a new system that we're going to be working our mortgages and loans through that has AI capability. We're kind of all tasking ourselves to understand that a little bit more, and how, you know, just every aspect of our business, how can we automate some things and make it more efficient? And I think what what I hear you saying, and I agree with, we're trying to build this foundation that is so solid and strong that we can make any additions to it we want without having to build more foundation. You know, we can build up vertically and be just fine. But in order to do that, we can't have another year or 6-month period where, now we would if we had to, but where either of us is locked in on a computer every day, just trying to grind out and make the day-to-day work. So I think the biggest thing we'll assess moving forward is stabilize. Like, this is the sequence. We stabilize, we run at that for 3 to 6 months, see how that's going. If loan demand is consistently month after month outpacing capital and we're having to broker loans or turn away loans, we bring in another tranche of capital, maybe 3 more million, and then we stabilize there, maybe 5 more million, or maybe none, and I think it'll be just every time we decide to we just pulled that lever where we're going to bring in a little bit more capital. It's got to be done with the mindset of, we're not doing this to apply pressure to ourselves to go find more loans.
Right.
We're doing it because we have the loan demand to support it.
That's right. And that's for 2 reasons. One is the stress of growing too fast, but we are managing investor capital.
Yeah.
Right. So the last thing we want to do with that capital is to start just seeking loans just to do loans.
Right.
We want the bigger part about, building that loan demand to however much of a percentage more than the capital we have is so we can be super selective on those loans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And put them in the best loans and grow that way, because that's our foundation. Our investor capital is our foundation, right?
Yep.
Without that, that's what we have to take care of. Number one priority. So we're only going to grow as fast as we are comfortable with, is that we've got just a solid foundation. It's secure. It's in good loans. And that's our priority. And we've been able to do that. Like, we've been able to do that so far. And it's got to be very strategic growth. I think where you hear it all the time, but where a lot of people get in trouble is just, let's scale, let's go raise all this money.
Yeah.
And they try to go too big, too fast, and then they go down just as fast. And I don't want to be in that position. Right.
Right. And a lot of that, man, like for me, when I think, I literally think we went through a 4-month period where we just shut down investors. Like, we're not bringing in any more capital, because we just had a big wave. And I look at that, hindsight, I'm glad we did that. And moving forward, I'm glad we're doing that. Like, we pretty much just shut it down again because we had another big wave when we pulled the lever. But there's an ego component that I manage well now, but like, there's a part of me that wants to go out and just never turn it off, right? And just see how much absolute just capital we can bring into this thing. And I have to remind myself that I never relate, like, I truly believe that had we not shut it down for 4 months and we never shut it down, we'd be in a lot of trouble right now trying to find loans. But I believe we could have 30 million plus in our fund. I really feel like, and what I'm getting at is, I never equate that to more money for us. I equate it to my ego, like wanting to prove that we can raise capital, and suppressing that has been a challenge for me, but a good one, like a lesson in just, man, this is how you operate a business, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and in our business, we have 2 customers.
Yeah.
So you get to shift that focus.
Yeah.
Right.
Finding borrowers.
To finding borrowers.
And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very important for us. And it was hard. Like, we sat down and talked through it. Like, at this point, like, we need to stop, get everything going, stabilize where we are right now.
Right.
And then we take that next step. And that's how, at least in this business, that's how we're going to be forever.
Yeah.
You know? And making sure we're making the right high level decisions regardless of ego, right?
Yeah.
Because the ego,
Is
to your
the
point,
enemy.
it is the enemy.
Yeah. It can be the enemy, but managed well. I mean, everybody has egos. For somebody, there's not many humans on this planet don't have something rolling in their head that they want to be proud of, right?
Yeah.
And we're no different. But managing that in a healthy way is good. So, I'm excited. Are you comfortable sharing we just set our like annual goals for 2026? You want to share those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And really, I guess we have capital raise goals, but that's not our focus for 2026. And basically, we just talked about why, right? We've done a good job of raising money this year. Next year is, you said it the other day, it's not necessarily growing a business, it's running a business, right? Which I think we're both excited to get to that point. So we have, our capital, which I said is we're just shy of 20 million right now. By the end of December, with the commitments we came in from our last
Right.
raid, we'll be right there at 20. And we're basically using those numbers to build out, our goals for next year. So our goal is, and we equate it all to loan amounts, right? So the way that our business operates, the best way for us to track it is how many dollars of loans are we doing, of new loans. So our target for next year is 46 million in new loans. This year, I guess this year we'll end right at 30, right? Now that does include a renewal loan and things like that in there.
Let me explain that for a second.
Yeah.
So a renewal loan, like from a accounting standpoint, is treated just like a new loan. And a renewal is an extension, essentially. Somebody has a 6-month loan. They're not quite finished with the project. The maturity is here. And they essentially get a new loan for 3 months, 6 months, whatever is needed. And so that new loan, from an accounting standpoint, we're getting our fees, our points, and stuff like that. So we treat that as new loan, although it's not a new borrower or new house that we're
Right.
So that's why we distinguish between the two.
Right.
Yep.
So as we look at next year, our 46 million is just in new loans, not including renewals.
Mhm.
So the renewals will be what they be if somebody needs, an extra month or 3 months, or if we have to do a 3-month renewal and things like that. But we make our target based on bringing new borrowers in the door, new loans in the door,
Yep.
right? We don't want to count on renewals. Hopefully nobody needs one, right? And we just keep cycling that money in less than 6 months, or our 6-month term. But yeah, so 46 million in loans next year, which is average just over 3 million a month. It's like 3.3 million loan volume dollars per month.
Yeah. Yep. So when I think through that, this is a big shift we're making. Is we're going to break that down quarter by quarter. So that's the big number, and we're not going to go through the weeds of that right now. But those goals will back into what a quarterly goal is, and then we've kind of broken the business up, and like we have 2 teams internally. We have you and Brandon overseeing operations, so that's going to be underwriting, loan processing, loan servicing, managing payoffs, rehab, stuff like that. And then we have sales and marketing, which is going to be me and Tim. And that's just going to be, so you two will have your side of the house. We'll have our side of the house. We'll continue to meet regularly to make sure everybody's aligned. And that we back into our KPIs, which are key performance indicators, what we're going to be doing on a daily, monthly, whatever basis to track towards that goal. And early on, we would set like a bunch of different goals. We got to do this much a month and this much. No, it's just going to be like, what's the big goal? And then we'll go into micro like actions to build to that goal. And that's it. We can't overwhelm ourselves,
Or you go back, I'm going to say it's 9 months ago, and we would get on a call and say what you said we can't say anymore.
Yeah.
Let's go find loans.
Right.
We need loans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With no teeth behind that.
Yeah.
Right. So we had our 2026 planning meeting last week, and on the second day, we basically had 2 half days. First day, we talked about just all of the business stuff, what our goals are going to be, what we can do better to protect ourselves, risk assessment, underwriting, all the boring stuff, right? But very important to make sure we're being as safe with our investments and doing the things we can from an efficiency standpoint and getting better there. But we wanted to spend an entire day, or I guess half day because we split it up, on the number one focus that we have for next year, and that is sales to flippers, right? And I say sales because we're going to find borrowers, we're going to find loans, but It is a sales job. And I liked how you laid it out. And, it was like a meeting at our old corporate jobs, right?
Right.
So what are you going to do every day, every week, from a KPI standpoint? How many people are you reaching out to? If you reach out to 10 people, how many should, reply? How many loans did you get out of that? And building it backwards like that, and the accountability behind that, like there's no doubt in my mind that as we get into the end of this month and in the next year, that it's going to do exactly what we needed to do.
Yeah.
And to this point, and I'll say, especially in the first 2 years, it was hard to get into that mode because let's go raise some capital. Okay, we have some capital. Let's go find loans. And we have, our few borrowers that we go to that we like and we trust, and we give that money to them. And then we go, okay, let's raise more money.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pausing one side or the other depending on where we are.
And we were warned that that would be the case early.
Yeah, that is our business, right? We're either heavy on capital or, we don't have enough capital and we're heavy on loans.
Yep.
But now we're at that point of, stabilization, at least in the amount of money that we have in the fund, that next year is just based on, let's go build the borrower side of this business, and have just we have a foundation now, but now let's have a rock solid foundation that, as we end next year, hopefully we get into, June, July and say, all right, let's go raise $5 million more. Our sales efforts have been so great.
Yep.
But as of right now, it's just doing it. It's doing the work. It's getting borrowers in the door.
Yeah.
That's the goal for 2026.
Yeah. I don't know if it was a book you and I read, or I remember there was this conversation early this year that both of us had heard or seen something, and we talked about it, but and this is kind of going back to what we talked about 20 minutes ago, but focusing on growth, like growing for us, the amount of capital, but there's a mindset shift of their efficiency is growth, right? There is growth in efficiency. If we can let's use 20 million, for example, and if doing the same thing we've been doing is going to make us X amount of revenue, and then we can go out and raise $10 million more to increase that revenue doing it the same way. So there's that option, or there's looking at that 20 million, and this is just like budgeting 101, but look, where are we wasting money? Where are we spending money that we don't need to? What opportunities are we leaving on the table? What are our most profitable loans, and what can we do to get more of those coming through the door? How can we capitalize on this or that? What levers can we pull without raising another penny? And if you can grow your bottom line by 10, 15% without actually growing, meaning growing the baby, which is the capital, it's still growth. It's the exact same thing. It's a lot less stressful growth as well. So that shift in mindset is going to be huge for us, because it's not how we thought about it that much to this point.
That's right.
Up until the last few months.
Yeah, it was more so the more capital we have in, the more money we can make. And early on, that's true, because if you don't have capital, you got nothing, right? So you got to get capital in the door. But yeah, it's to a point where, you increase that total profit, on the basis of your revenue by 15 or 20% at a $20 million fund. Well, then you rather be coming from that basis to go to a $30 million fund as opposed to the opposite, right? Grow to 30 and then try to maximize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maximize now, see where you are after a year, and then take that next step, if it's comfortable enough.
I want to transition a little bit as we start wrapping things up. And this so at least twice now, I've either had to be on stage or present on a Zoom call to a group, about partnerships, right? Because everybody knows that you and I are a partnership. We've built a business from scratch as a partnership. So I've gotten to share these things from my perspective. I think every time I've done it, you haven't been in the room. So I'm speaking for you a lot of times, but, I talk about the cliche things, you want a partner that is not exactly like you, and y'all have complementary skill sets, and there's trust and all that stuff. But I want to give you a few minutes to share your perspectives around what we see a lot of people going at this alone, whether it's this, I'm just talking about business in general, and it works for a lot of people. You and I think work better as a partnership, just given who we are and our backgrounds and stuff. But share your perspectives on that might help some people listening that are trying to figure out, like, do I do this alone? Do I try to bring in partners or whatever? Just give some thoughts around that and how it applies to us or anybody.
I know it's we're in a couple of these big like entrepreneur business owner Facebook groups, right? And questions that get asked in those groups a lot. What is one thing you regret in your business? And every time 50% of the answers are somebody they partnered with. Right? Don't partner with family. Don't partner with a best friend. Just don't do partnerships at all because they're going to go bad. And I think probably more times than not, they do, at least according to the Facebook threads. I don't know. But, even watching from the outside in of partnerships that have gone bad are usually people that are jumping into partnerships that have no idea really who they're dealing with, right? They didn't test it out. They didn't do a deal with them and they jump in and it doesn't go well. I think
they don't know how they handle adversity. That's a big one.
That's a huge one. I would say that is the number one thing is when something's not going right, do they flee? Do they run? Do they blame each other? Things like that. So, I mean, even for us, we've known each other since we were 14 years old or whatever it is. We went to college together. We were friends and we knew each other a long time before that. When I remember we're sitting at Wharf Hill early on. You might not even remember this. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this when we were both trying to figure out how we were buying houses.
Okay.
And I think I was looking for a crutch because I wasn't finding any deals. You were finding a couple. I'm like, man, why don't we just work together? And you said, we both don't know what we're doing right now. We're both trying to figure it out. Why would we partner? Right. That was the answer. I was like, well, that does kind of make sense. We're both trying to do the same thing.
Sounds like something I'd say, but I don't really.
But that was early on. It wasn't until probably a year later where we were comparing notes and figuring out what we were good at where we decided to partner on a few deals, right? So like everything as relates to us, we built it over time. Right. We built it over time and have a clear understanding of our motives. Even though they change, right? We just asked the question about what I think about growth. Both of our opinions might change where that goes. We know that, we respect that, and we know we're going to talk through it. Right. So there's nothing, we make sure that all that stuff's on the table. And we've been through enough of, hard shit, honestly, in real estate of things going bad where we've had to figure things out and we both did our part. Right. There's been several times we have to come up with a lot of money to fix something or things like that. So we've been through hard things. We got through it. We got through it together. No blame, no nothing like that because it doesn't get you anywhere. And we figured things out. So, and all of that was previous to starting this fund, right?
Well, it's previous to us ever getting into real estate. Like both of us have watched each other in life go through some hard things and have a positive perspective around them. And like that, like I know how you deal with hard things. You know how I deal with hard things. And that just knowing that, like that's a big one for me. I know that if I screw something up in this business, so let's say early on, I wasn't raising a lot of capital. It just wasn't going. And I felt that. I knew you didn't think any less of me. I know you, like, I didn't have that pressure of he's going to not want to be a partner with me because I'm not doing my job. So that pressure is eliminated and vice versa. If something, let's say you approved a loan that went bad or whatever, no judgment, like we'll figure it out, we'll move on. But I think that's been the biggest, like, if I had to hang my hat on one thing that works is we just know that, God, we've been together for so long. I cannot think of a single time where either one of us has panicked.
No, and it doesn't, I remember I did say last week about something. I was like, just let me be mad for a second.
Yeah, right.
Right? About something completely not between us, but just something was going on.
And then the context there was you were venting,
Yeah.
and my mindset is let's get off the venting,
Yeah.
let's talk about it. And you're like, just give me a minute to be mad. I was like, okay, I appreciate
Sound like
that.
a husband and wife
Right.
relationship.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. But and I'll go back to the original question.
Yeah.
But and I talked about where I think a lot goes wrong because they don't have that foundation, right? A lot of people jump into partnerships because they like each other. They do the same things and all this kind of stuff, and it fizzles out. It doesn't work. But another thing for pro partnerships is you don't realize it. Everybody says it. You leave a corporate job. For me, I'm in an office with 200 people. I get bored. I'll go walk around and talk to people and things like that.
Right.
Like entrepreneurship or owning your own business, it's lonely.
It is. Yeah.
It's very lonely.
Right.
And if you don't have, and this is a good reason for like mastermind groups and different things to join and all like that. But like to my point, I'm just grinding away on closing loans one day up in my recliner. And next thing you know, it's been 7-8 hours. I haven't even talked to anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Just because you're focused on that, and I can't just get up and walk around an office and have water cooler talk with people and things like that because it's not there. We have 4 people in our business, and for the most part, we work in 4 different places.
Yeah.
We can get on the phone and talk and things like that, but more so than it just being lonely from people being around. But there's a limited amount of people that actually know what we're going through,
Right.
And starting and growing a business.
Yep.
So it's just different. And that's something that can bring you down. You just get lonely and you don't have people to talk to, and things like that. So at least you and I, if I have something that's going on, and I might be the decision maker on that, or it might be creating a little bit of anxiety, at least I can talk to you and say, what do you think about this? It's really a borderline of a loan that we would do. These are my options. Maybe we lower the LTV or this and that, whatever we might talk through, at least gives that. It's a sounding board, if nothing else. Right. And that's important to have.
Yeah.
Even if you're an owner of a business and you're by yourself, find somebody to be able to talk to that can help you through things, because that weight on your shoulders where we take that on fully as being business owners, like every once in a while you need to bounce ideas off of somebody.
Yeah. And bounce frustrations off each other and stuff like that. And I think another thing that helps, and I think about this with us a lot, like you and I can communicate with each other as business partners, like in a way that, and this is super important, we don't have to wonder what the other one's thinking, right? Like we joke around a lot, we pick on each other a lot, and that's just all fun. We've done that since we were kids, but when it comes to business, what you tell me is what you mean. Yeah. And what I tell you is what I mean. And if I'm frustrated with something or I need to vent, I can do it in a way where you're not going to think, well, God, he used this tone and, what did he really mean by that? No, we are so open and candid with each other, good, bad, ugly, all the things in between, that we don't have to waste any time wondering what the other one's thinking, or if the other one's like, there was a period early on where I was questioning, like, man, this isn't going the way it was. I told you that. Yeah. Like, I was open with you and we had a conversation about it. I didn't let that linger for 6 months to a point where I'm over here struggling, borderline depressed and blah, 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 because I'm not talking to anybody about it. So that is very important as well.
And that's the ego thing as well, right? Yeah. Is that you want everyone to think that you're good at what you do. Right. You do. Yeah. And a lot of people will say, I don't care what somebody thinks, and maybe they do or don't, but you're in a business, you're in a partnership where we want to show our investors we know what we're doing, right? We want to show our borrowers we know what we're doing. And ultimately we want to show each other we know what we're doing. Yep. But at least in our relationship, we've got to trust that we know what we're doing. And if you feel bad about something or you feel like you're faking it, we just tell each other, hey, I don't feel good about this. I know I've been doing it. What do you think about it? Mm-hmm. Right. I've been doing it this way. Does it make more sense if I do it that way? And every time and it's usually like on the borrower side of a loan we're getting ready to do, and I come to you because it's my job to make that decision on what loan we're going to do. But no matter whether you give me an answer or not, the conversation at least always brings me some sort of idea about how to handle it, right?
Right.
That's important.
Yeah.
It's just a sounding board. These are my ideas. You might think of a couple things that I haven't thought of a way to protect ourselves or whether or not we should do the loan at all. But it's always good because I might completely miss something.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations like, man, I didn't think of that. I'm glad you were there, dude.
Yeah.
Right? To listen.
Well, but that on the other side of that, and we'll start wrapping it up here in a minute, but I'm an ideas guy. That's like, I see things, I visualize things. I'm not a good implementer. I'm not a good integrator, right? So if you come to me with 5 problems and you want my opinion on ideas to get through those problems, I can talk you through every single one of them. Like I can go to work, constructively thinking through things and how to do it. I'm not going to be the one that actually does the things I give you the idea on, right?
And I would never want you to.
Right. And where that helps me is being the idea guy. Like if you were not in the picture and I had this idea to leave my career and and that evolved to trying to grow this fund, I'm not saying I wouldn't have been able to do it. It would have been a lot harder. And the only way I would have been able to do it is find somebody that can do these things and implement, right? So you're an implementer, you're an integrator. You can take ideas and organize them. And then we're bringing in, like with Brandon and then Tim's good at this, implementing things, right? And so that's where it works, right? It allows me you can call me and say, hey, I'm struggling thinking through this one. Boom, I get to go to work at something I love to do, like try to figure that problem out. Okay, bye, Bill, I'm out, and then you get to go do that. And that's a beautiful relationship when it comes to business. One other thing that helps us is talk about ego and remaining humble and all that stuff. We have 2 wives that are really tight with each other themselves, that your wife doesn't mind calling me a dumbass. My wife doesn't mind and they keep us pretty humble.
They do. They do.
Things. So, and we, I was thinking about that yesterday. We all got together and took the kids to see Santa and did a brunch type thing. And like all of our families are together. I'm looking at all of our kids. They're happy. They're friends. Our wives are friends. And we get to do these things. And like, we didn't talk about business at all for a couple hours we were together yesterday. And it's just, like, yeah, we did those things when we were in our corporate jobs. Yesterday happened to be a Sunday we were doing it. If it was a Wednesday, we would have been doing the same thing because we've built it to this point. So that makes me happy. But we'll start wrapping it up now. Do you have any other thoughts or anything before you disappear back into your cave for a couple months?
I had something earlier. I'm trying to remember what it was. But I think if it's, I think a lot of people probably listen to you, for, really advice on what to do, or they want to leave their corporate jobs and things like that. I think the most important thing is I talked about either the money or the business that's going, but do a few things. Be on the same page with your spouse if you have one.
Yep.
Right. If you don't have a spouse or kids, I just say go do whatever the hell you want. Right.
Right.
It's a little bit harder if you don't have any money, but you got a whole lot more you can do, and the position in your life means a lot. But I will say that over the last almost 3 years, March will be 3 years for me since I've left my corporate job. It's been a lot of ups and downs. It's been a lot of thinking, rethinking, are we doing things, a lot of pivoting and things like that. But I mean, I think we're another case in point. You keep your mind, you keep focused on one thing, and you have a clear vision on what that is, that you'll eventually get traction, right? As long as you stick at it. But it all comes back to, that mindset of we're going to figure this out no matter what. Right. And that's what we've taken. So if you listen to us, hopefully we inspire folks to do certain things, but at the same time, be calculated. Right. You still got to pay your bills. You got to, you have to take care of your family, your kids, and make sure you have a solid plan around that. And if you do, go for whatever it is, whether it's, you want to be a, HVAC technician and own a business or whatever. But
don't, and this is where the ego comes. Don't be scared, even if you have to pay for it. But you might have to try a few different avenues here, but get a mentor, get somebody. For us in this particular business, we went so far as hiring Kelly Garrett to help us build it.
Yeah.
Right? And she's a friend of ours, right? She didn't need to charge us a penny, right? But she did, because she knew if we paid for it, we'd pay attention, and we were serious.
Yeah. And
yeah.
And we would have anyway.
Yeah.
They would have paid attention. But yeah, definitely from her standpoint, I wouldn't have just done it for us for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that completely lost my train of thought, but it was profound.
Yeah.
It was profound.
Just mentor, and just even if it's somebody. I remember sitting down at my first legacy family event. I had lunch with David Benson, and I actually saw him in another legacy event he came to. I don't know where we were, but anyway, so I hadn't seen him or talked to him in a while, but I reminded him, I was like, you and I I was still working my corporate job. I was working through some things. You were like a year ahead of me. You had just left your corporate. He was a banker, and I was like, you were my crystal ball, man. And just that one lunch conversation, we didn't talk anymore after that, but that gave me inspiration. So find the people that might have done something similar to what you're looking to do, couple steps ahead of you, and link up with them
and make sure they've done it.
Right. Exactly.
And make sure
a lot of people talk, a lot of noise.
Make sure they've done it. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
I remember what my point was.
Let's go.
But find a mentor, find a group, whatever it is. But I think a lot of people get into things like that, and they just expect through, attrition, whatever, that it's just going to happen. Right. I hired a mentor. I joined a mastermind group. Now this business is going to fall in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a whole lot of work.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And like for us, it's been a whole lot of work, and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're just on the next phase of it, which is probably gonna be harder than the first. Right.
Yep. But it's all going to be fun in its own way.
Yeah.
And and every challenge, I could go on and on, but just a couple weeks ago, we're faced with one of our loans. It's like if we told the story right now, everybody would think it's a disastrous situation. Like it's a nightmare scenario of a loan. And what have we done? We've assessed it for what it was. And now only thing we're focused on is how we're going to leverage this and come out positive. And through that, we've come up with a few ideas and things that are going to work out,
Every business has issues.
Yeah.
Right. Every single one, no matter what it was. At my old job, we'd had stuff that happened all the time in a big company where, things would go bad or go wrong, and you have to get around them. That's going to happen in our business as well. And obviously we tell our investors that we go through that. There's always going to be things that we deal with. That goes back to the partnership piece of it, but not to get too negative about any situation. You deal with it, you move on.
I love because you do this, you'll call me, you'll sleep on something like bad news, and then you'll call me hey, call me when you get a chance, and I'll call you. And I always know there's something going on, and you'll start, man, I've slept on it, I've lost some sleep, blah, 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 I got some bad news. And my reaction, like when I hear you say I have some bad news, this is twisted, but I get excited. I'm like, okay, here's another puzzle to solve without even knowing what the puzzle is. And then lay it on me, and I'll start thinking through it. Like I never receive it as, oh crap, that's terrible. Right. Never. And I think you give me the same thing when, like, if I have anything bad to share, and that's good. I'm going to wrap this up with, I had a bunch of other things in my head I was going to, but we've gone, we need to wrap it up. So, one, you and I, prior to this year, we worked out most days together. I'm going into some personal physical stuff here. So we were working out. We'd meet at the YMCA at least 3 days a week. We were together getting a workout in during the week. And you had some injuries, shoulder, back, leg, hip, old man stuff, that knocked you down for a little while. So you and I this year, we've worked out together 3 times, maybe.
Probably.
It had
December.
been a couple times. I needed a spot for some workouts, so you'd come. You were nice enough to spot me and do your own thing while I was doing it. But the whole time, I'm thinking, no, you've been going to Burn boot camp
boot camp
with your wife.
Yep.
Mostly women in these classes.
Yeah.
And the whole time I've been joking on you, like, he ain't working out. He's, he's not, he can't keep up. So last week, I knew we were all going to be together, Tim, Brandon, you, and me. I said, all right, we're meeting at the Y whatever morning, and we're going to go through a workout. I'm designing the workout. I didn't tell you this, but in the back of my mind, I was trying to design a workout to prove to you that you still didn't have it and you need to get back in there.
And what was I doing?
You crushed it.
I was calling out reps on each one for y'all to hit when we got to it. That's
yeah,
right.
and so
Elite.
elite. I did not say elite. I'm trying to give you a compliment. It's hard for me to do, but I designed this workout. It was like a HIIT workout, a lot of movement, a hard workout. And about halfway through, I expected you to be bent over, huffed over, and me to say, see, I told you, you're not keeping up. You kept up with me every step of the way. I think one of the things we were doing box jumps. You got a few more than I did in one round. And so I'm applauding you for this.
Oh.
It was kind of a spot check to see where you were. And now you might not have managed the weight all along this way very well, but as far as your cardio.
And by weight, you mean my physical weight.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
I've been eating a lot.
you obviously have been working out harder than I thought, and you can keep up. And I just want to give you praise for that.
I appreciate that. And I make sure Elena listens to this too.
Yeah.
As it has been good for us.
Yep. It makes, another thing, y'all are getting up most days 5 a.m. and going and doing.
Honestly, that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Is you work out too damn late.
Mm-hmm.
You like working out in the middle of the day. I used to.
Right.
But I'm way more productive with my day to get up and get my workout done first thing in the morning.
Yep.
And my wife's the same way. So we get up, we go do a workout at 6:15 in the morning. We're done by 7. And then we got the whole day. Yeah. You knock me out for an hour and a half between like 9 and noon. Yeah. I feel like my whole day gets gone.
Right.
That's just in my brain.
Yeah. But my energy, like I said, later in the day. So like now JJ's in wrestling season. So he's practicing 3 nights a week. I drop him off. I'm getting my workout in at 6 o'clock in the evening.
I hate that.
I love it. That's when I got my energy, man. But kudos to you. You're still always going to be a step behind me, but you did pretty good on that. No, your cardio has always been impressive and probably a step ahead of me. So yeah, I'll give you that.
I'm weak now though. Too many injuries, but that's okay.
I appreciate you. We're in a good spot. I'm glad you took a little time. I know you got a bunch of stuff in your head you got to get to. So, but appreciate you coming over and doing this. I'm excited about 2026. I'm excited to get you out of the weeds once Brandon gets up and running, and hopefully folks will start hearing more from you and seeing more of you, because you and I will be on the same page doing the same stuff a lot of times. So yeah,
absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
All right, that'll wrap up another episode of Burning the Ships. See y'all next time. Peace. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships podcast. As always, we want to thank our sponsor, 608B Capital. We are a short-term lending fund, a debt fund, open for investors who are looking for a passive return. And also we offer products our main product, to fix and flippers and buy and holders, folks that are doing things like that in real estate. Also want to remind you about our referral program. Check out our website for more information on that, and we're happy to talk to you further if you're interested. Again, thank you for joining us on Burning the Ships. And do me a favor and go out and try to find someone or some way that you can add value into the world today. Think through it, zoom out, and try to find where you can add value. I think it'll help wrap up your day, wrap up your week, whatever you're working on a positive note if you constantly think that way. Where can I add value? So with that, we thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships. Have a good one.